know I've given numerous lectures in my educational career. This is not a lecture on spirituality. Can I bring it up here? Is that better? It is on. I just haven't turned it on the other. It is a photo. It's going to be a photo essay and talk about the many ways that I experienced the spirituality of India during my 2 visits there, one in 2009 and one in 2025. Due to the limitations of technology, I question whether the visual presentation will be accessible to those viewing from Zoom. However, I've saved this presentation, the visual presentation, on a PDF, which will be available on the UUCSC website, along with the YouTube recording. So, now.
Should the camera be on? Yeah, no.
That's the power button.
Yep.
That's it.
It's like someone's very slow.
Is the light on?
There we go. Good patient number up.
So, before I start the photo essay, what I selected to start with is a video from my friend Radhika's. She has 2 centers that serve individuals with developmental disabilities in India. One is called Om Creations and the other one is Om Abode. And this is the first video. This is a video of a peace tree that there was a ceremony honoring peace there at Om Abode, and these are some of the individuals from the center bringing a peace tree to be planted in their peace park. And I started out with that because, because there are many different ways to experience spirituality, and in India, it's prevalent throughout so many different aspects of Indian life. And you just saw the peace tree planting, which is really, which was a very spiritual and engaging opportunity to recognize the importance of peace together, and there were many, many other things that happened during that day. And here you see my friend Radhika blessing the tree of peace, and everybody there honoring the peace tree, and that will grow, and as it grows, they hope that it will bring more peace to the world. And it was a wonderful opportunity to be there and to experience this. And at the very end, I'm going to show a video of some of the celebration that we have. So this is a picture from Om Abode. Om Abode is a campus. It's a residential campus for individuals with developmental disabilities to learn and grow and do works of art, and they have a farm there. It's a wonderful, wonderful place to visit and to spend time in. I've spent many, many days there at Home Road. As you can see, this is one of them, and it's termed a Social Innovation Institute of Home Creations Trust. But I wanted to include this photo because behind me, you can see a very small building, and that actually is a small Hindu temple there for one of the gods. The small building right behind me, and there's a small gate there, and individuals stop there and pray. And I'll be talking more about what I understand for in Hinduism as the many gods that are there. But I wanted to start here. And now this is still on the Home Road campus, and this is another small temple to one of the other gods there in India. So my experience is that as I traveled through India, you never quite know exactly when you're going to come across a shrine or a temple. And as I was doing some research about this, for this presentation, I found out that in Hinduism, there are many, many, many gods. I'll talk about that a little bit more. But I just wanted to give you an idea of the presence of religion in India. So Hinduism is almost about 80% of throughout India. And second to that is Islam, right, or Muslim religion. But there is a strong presence, at least a significant presence, of Christianity, and then Sikhism is another type of religion there in India, and then Buddhism. There's a small presence, Buddhist presence, and that actually dates back to centuries ago, when before India really had become a country, and still Buddhism is there, and then these other religions that I really don't know very much about. So there's a presence of various religions, but there's also a presence within regular life throughout India. Spirituality and government live well together, and there's no problem with talking about spiritual things within the community of India. So a little bit about the most prevalent religion in India, and it's also the one that I know the most about because my friend Radhika and her family are Hindu, and I lived with them for about 6 weeks this past time, and they are strict vegetarians. Most individuals who are Hindu do follow a vegetarian diet. They don't have to, but they choose to. And one friend explained to me that they don't eat anything with eyes, anything that has a consciousness, anything that can that might have the feelings, that are interfered with. But Hinduism does believe in one supreme great being, the Brahman, but it has many other manifestations, and there are 3 major manifestations: Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And actually, Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is like the sustainer, and Shiva is sometimes talked about as the destroyer, but also the transformer. And it's Shiva that is the primary manifestation of God that supports yoga, meditation, and all of those things, because again, Shiva is transformation, and all of those practices carry through to that idea. But strikingly enough, apparently there are 330 million different deities of gods in Hinduism that people believe in. So this is one of the reasons why there are so many shrines and temples and different things, because God, or the supreme being, is considered to be polymorphous, have many different forms. So Hinduism is considered a polymorphous monotheism. It's one supreme being that takes on multiple different forms. So what are some of these forms that I saw? This is a particular god that was at a temple that we went to visit when I was there this last time. It was actually in a temple that was dedicated to 7 female gods. This particular temple, and it's the only place I've ever been to where the female gods were elevated to this level. And this is one. And as you can see, many flowers are brought to these gods, and people come from all over to bring offerings and things like that and to pray here. This is a different, this was at a historic site called Hampi. And this actually, I believe, is a sculpture of Shiva, because Shiva is often represented with a snake, the transformation god. So this is, and you see these sculptures and manifestations all throughout various places in India. This is another representation of one of the gods. This was at the historic, in the National Museum of India, and their art gallery, and they have this enormous gallery with many, many different manifestations of the gods, of the Indian gods. I found this one particularly interesting for obvious reasons. And this is actually one of the oldest statues or sculptures that they had in this museum. And you can see in this, it's a Hindu god, but the face is very similar to what we see in Buddhism, right? You can see that. So this I think is representative of kind of the transformation from Buddhism into and the development of Hinduism. And this is another god. As again, there are so many different forms of gods. This happens to be a god that is in the form of a cow, right, or cattle. And as many of you may know, beef cattle are very sacred, very, very sacred in India, and particularly in Hinduism. And we'll see more cows as we go along. And I believe it's because they give so much life, through their milk products, and so much dairy is used since no meat is eaten in Hinduism. This was also a statue of another god. This was a frog god, or a toad god. And I don't know exactly the exact name of this god, but this was an enormous statue that was in that historic town of Hampi. And Hampi had been the capital of India back in the 13th and 14th century. So if you ever do get to India and you want to go to some place that is an incredible historic site, I do recommend Hampi. It's near Bangalore in kind of the southwestern part of India. And as you can see, there are many different forms of various gods. This was at an art museum, but it's the artist's representation of a god named Hanuman. And Hanuman is a very, very interesting god because it's a combination of the human body and then the elephant's head. And the story that I was told, or the legend is that there was the king of India and his beautiful, beautiful wife. And the wife had a son. And what happened, and the wife loved her son incredibly and would spend lots and lots of time with the son. And the king was very jealous and cut the son's head off. And what happened was the gods came about, Brahman or one of the many gods, and helped the son to continue to live by putting on the head of an elephant. So Hanuman is a combination of, spiritual combination of the elephant and the sun. So those are some representations of particular gods. Another way that spirituality is represented and practiced is through various temples. And this is actually a Hindu temple that's in the on the pathway to go to Om Abode, which is my friend's center. And we pass this temple. And people will just stop there, go in and pray. I don't know which of the many gods it has in there, but people have their own favorite gods that they pray to. Most Hindu families have some kind of a shrine within their home. I know my friends, the Khanas, have not only a shrine in their home, but they have a priest that comes in every single day and prays in their home. They're quite well, it's a quite well-to-do family, so they're able to do those things. But even families that have very, very little usually have some type of a shrine within their homes. Hindu families, at least. This is actually a picture of the temple where that female god was. So this is what the temple looked like, and this is just a very small portion of the temple itself there. So, and this, I thought this was a good representation of some of the many different gods that are in the Hindu religion. This is back in Hampi, and this is a close-up of one of the temples that's there, and you can see the representation of so many of the different gods. And that's me. And behind me is the Temple of the Sun. And it's pretty obvious that it's heading up to the sun, and this is yet another Hindu temple that people will travel to and pray at. And actually there was an elephant in there that you could ride, which I didn't get to. This is my friend Radhika, and this is an example of one of the small shrines that's just by the side of the road somewhere. And this is one that she stops at on her way to the ashram that we were traveling to. And this is another part of that particular shrine. And you can see the gods and the flowers that they have, and they have ladies for flowers. And since I was in India recently, my Google Calendar keeps popping up all of these holidays that are Indian, and it's, every month, there's probably about 6 or 7 different holidays that are popping up in this calendar. And I always wondered why my friends were always going from one holiday to the other, and now I know how many holidays there actually are. And people in India stop and take the day and celebrate and then go back to their work. So, I mentioned about the ashram, so this is another type of representation for spirituality. The Art of Living ashram is one that my friend Radhika has been part of probably for the last 30 years. And the poem that I read was written by the guru, Sri Ravi Shankar. And I'm going to show you. This is the primary building at the ashram. Now, I thought an ashram was a building like this. This ashram was actually the whole top of the mountain. It had the entire mountain, and throughout this mountain was a university, a hospital, several schools for children, farms where they raised, cattle and other types of animals for milk, like goats, and large farms, and hundreds of people lived there at this ashram, and they did pray, and Guru Dev would be there from time to time. But he also has ashrams around the world. Another large one, I believe, is in North Carolina. I've never been there, but my friend Radhika has. And this is a picture of Guru Dev, Sri Ravi Shankar. And we were hoping that we would get to meet him, but he didn't happen to be there on the day that we came. And this is actually in the hospital. And I wanted to show you this hospital because it's a little bit different than there are many similarities. People come there for healing, but the type of medicine that they practice is very, very different. This is where they're preparing all of the different medications, and I found that to be fascinating. And I took this one because it's called Ayurvedic medicine, and Ayurvedic, they follow Ayurvedic diets, and their approach to medicine is really very, very natural. I mean, I had not heard of, leech treatments for a long, long time. And yet, it is a prevalent treatment there in India, as well as painless tooth extraction, which I don't know exactly how they do, but they claim that it's painless, and there were hundreds of people there getting their treatments here at this hospital. It was, probably about 4 stories high. So that's just an idea of how broad and how prevalent, the spirituality is. The other thing that they had at the ashram is very, very much a yoga and meditation center. So people go there for weeks at a time and practice and learn meditation and learn yoga. And Guru Dev is the leader. So practices. So I had talked about the fact that cattle, because of spiritual reasons, are sacred. And this is just a typical shot that I took out the window of the car of the cattle. Cattle just are walking all over the streets in the countryside, and if they're in front of your car, you stop and you wait for the cattle, and then they go by, and everybody tries to have a cow so they can have the milk, but they're just considered to be very sacred. Most of you can't see this, but there's a tiny sign behind it, and it does say Catholic Church. So out in this in the countryside here, Catholicism has a presence. These are the cows at the ashram, and they are very, very well cared for cows. They get baths every day, and they're well loved, and they're particularly wonderful Indian cows. And of course, and now this is an example of some of the type of food that they would grow and have in the ashram, and also at my friend's home, vegetarian food, mung beans, and a variety of other things. And I took this picture at my friend's house because every single morning, because of her father, we would have at least 7 fruits. You had to start your day with 7 fruits for spiritual reasons. This, like I counted them all up, there's actually 9 on here. This was a special day. But some of the fruits I had never recognized. I learned the one in the middle is actually a water chestnut. That's what they look like when they have their chestnut covers on. And it was a wonderful way to live, and so I was vegetarian for 6 weeks. And many people in India eat with their hands. And the reason they eat with their hands is not just practical, it's spiritual, and it's to put less between you and the spirit of the food. Rather than having utensils, you actually eat with your hands. So it's very much accepted and approved of throughout India. And my friend Radhika does this as a regular practice, eats food with their hands. Of course, another practice is meditation and yoga. This is a yoga class that we had in their home. This is inside my friend Radhika's home. And she practices yoga every single day. I took a meditation class, and I still do some breathing for meditation. That's pretty much what I took home with it. These are the individuals at Own Creations, my friend Radhika's other center. And anyone who wants to takes yoga, and they have yoga 3 times a week. These are all individuals with developmental disabilities or with emotional and developmental disabilities and Down syndrome and other, it's a center for adults, and they do yoga. And I was in this entire class, I was just amazed at how proficient they were. And here you can see that's just another shot of yoga, and everyone is trying, everyone is working. The yoga teacher is a professional yoga teacher that comes and works with them. So just briefly about a couple of the other religions. This is a very large Catholic church, and it's in Goa. And Goa was founded by it's a city in India founded by the Portuguese. So they brought Catholicism to that area, and this is one of the largest Catholic churches in India. This is a representation of Buddha. As I told you, most of the statues of Buddha are quite old. This one is quite old, and another representation of Buddha from the museum. And also, there's a significant presence of Islam, and this is one of the largest Islamic, mosques. This is right in the city of Delhi. And this is another mosque. This is in Mumbai. It's on an island, and that walkway actually, when the water rises, the walkway will be submerged, and they're hoping to build a new walkway that won't submerge. And I didn't know if you realize this, but actually the Taj Mahal is an Islamic tomb. It's not Hindu at all. it's Islamic, and you can tell by the minarets or the towers that are on the outside there. It was being worked on when this picture was taken, but it was a tomb that was built to honor the Sultan, or the leader's beautiful wife. So spirit, a little bit more, just a few more things about Indian spirituality. So as you can see, it's diverse. People are tolerant of each other's religion for the most part, but there have been real instances of intolerance and conflict between the religions, and probably the biggest example of that is the partition. I don't know if you ever learned about the partition in your history classes. I never did. When I went to India, I said, well, what is the partition? So the partition was when the British, who had been in India and, conquered India and were running India for hundreds of years, they decided they needed to leave. And what happened was that the Muslim population that was living in India and the Hindus, so the Muslims that were living in the main part of India, the blue part of India, and the Hindus that were living in the northern part of India were concerned that when the British left, that there would be, that they would be killed, that there would be all kinds of religious wars and conflicts. So it was decided that the country of Pakistan would be formed. And back in 1947, there was this period of time of 1 month where the border was open and individuals could move, like individuals who were Muslim who wanted to move into the Muslim area of Pakistan could go there. You didn't have to have a passport, you didn't have to have anything, you could just go. And there was this enormous movement of people in one direction or the other. But as that window of time came to a close, there were conflicts, and many, many people died during this time. This is just a picture of one of the conflicts that was happening in India at the time. And there's a very, very famous story in many different movies about the trains that would move people from one part of India to the other, and how desperate people were to get on these trains because there were hordes of people, whether it was Muslim people or Hindu people that were just moving through the country and killing anyone that wasn't their religion, that wasn't of their religion. So people needed to get to the areas that were safer. And my friend's family, Radical, was one of those families that had to travel on that train. And she was not alive at the time, but her mother was. And spending 6 weeks with her mother, I heard about the partition many, many, many times. And this is a picture of India on the day that the British finally left and India gained its independence. So I have one more very brief video to show you. This is the celebration ceremony at the end of that day. So that's just a very short introduction to what my experience was there in India with my friend Radhika, and I hope that I was successful in giving you a good feel for the scope and the depth and the differences in terms of how spirituality is really represented throughout India. And thank you so much.